Well, everybody, it is so good to see you. Thank you for being here. I'm aiming for this to be at least in the top 5 messages you'll hear today. So trying to lower expectations a bit, but it is so great to have you. If we've not met yet, I'm Wolfgang, and I work here, and delighted to get ready to celebrate Christmas this week. And of course, this is the 7th of the 8 days of Hanukkah, and so happy Hanukkah as well. It's great to see you. I'm just gonna jump straight into this and tell you something I love. I love these guys. Anybody recognize these guys? I sort of grew up on these guys. Whether you came to know the Muppets, some of you are like, who are they? This is not our staff, all right? This is, although we could make correlations, that's actually a whole other conversation. But the Muppets, they, of course, whether you remember them from the TV show in the 70s, whether you remember them from some of the cartoons in the 80s and 90s, Muppet Babies, that kind of thing, or whether you remember them from sort of the reboot more recently in some of the newer movies and shows that have developed. No matter what our background, where we are, most people can at least agree that they like at least a Muppet, if not all the Muppets. And for those of you who are like under 20 or whatever, the Muppets are essentially they're AI made of felt. Okay, that's basically what they are. Okay, so that's all you need to know about them. But I'm a huge fan. I love Kermit. I love Miss Piggy. I love Fozzie. I love Gonzo. My favorite, front left there, Animal. I've always loved Animal, all right? But one of the most popular characters, as sort of ironic as it is, are these two guys that were featured primarily in the TV show. You remember them? Those two old crotchety guys that would sit up in the hill, or I'm sorry, not on the hill, in the balcony, and would sort of fire off insults and hecklers and that kind of thing. You remember who I'm talking about? Does anybody, just a little Muppet trivia, these guys actually have names. Do you know their names? Anybody know their names? They are Waldorf and Statler. Very good, very good. These are some of the most iconic characters. For those of you who don't remember them or you've never seen them in action before, we pulled together just a little taste of some of the sharp, let's call it encouragement that they have for those who are part of the show. Take a look at this.
So this is going to be a fantastic show.
Yeah, it better be, because tonight we're keeping score.
Yes, and on a scale of 1 to 10, here's your score so far.
Oh.
Who could ask for anything more?
We could.
Yeah, earplugs. Well, that was different.
I should say so. So many of these songs are long and boring.
Yes, they finally managed one short and boring. Am I crazy or was that good?
You're crazy.
I thought so.
Hey, come on, guys. No heckling. I mean, I'm not even out here to tell jokes.
Have you ever been?
Hey, you know that bear is funny.
You're right. In fact, I never enjoyed you more than I did last week.
Oh, well, I didn't do an act last week.
I rest my case. Just when you think this show is terrible, something wonderful happens.
What?
It ends.
You get the idea, you get the idea. It's funnier in the show for those of you who are like, what is he talking about? But basically, no kidding, the entire time these guys sit in the balcony and fire off insults and digs. And as strange as it is, they are some of the most popular characters from that universe. In fact, just a couple of years ago, the original puppets, the Muppets themselves from that show, sold for over $120,000. Just those two guys. The stuff that they sell with their images on them, ornaments, t-shirts, toys, they actually are some of the best sellers of all the Muppet material. In fact, even our own Everett Funko Pop came out with a set of Statler and Waldorf, who will sit here and watch the rest of this message. Now, some of you know what it's like to be heckled. And I don't mean like you've been up here on stage and the people up there in the balcony that like look at you and say mean things about you. We can hear you. I just want you to know. I'm watching you, Benjamin. I'm watching you, buddy. I'm watching you too, Kathy. I'm talking about just all of us know what it's like to have people in our lives who love to laugh at our low moments and who are quick to criticize. You got any of those people? People who shine a spotlight on your shortcomings or who make fun of your failures. Maybe it's somebody from early in your life, and even though they're long gone, their voice still echoes in your mind. It was a parent or a coach, or maybe somebody at school, a classmate. Maybe it's someone more recent. Maybe it's a boss or a coworker. Maybe it was an ex. Then there's the ways that it's not other voices that are heckling us. Sometimes it's our own voice, right? It's our own minds, ourselves. Because we know the truth about us. We know the ways we don't measure up, the ways we aren't where we hoped we'd be by this point, or the ways that we even disappoint ourselves. Now, as Scotty said, in this season, we've been talking about connecting with God and how in Christmas, God took this crazy step to connect with us in the most unlikely way by coming as a vulnerable baby to a couple of peasant teenagers in a nowhere town. And we talked about some of the things in our lives that can block that connection, that can be obstacles to that connection. Things like self-focus, as we learned about with Herod, or doubt, as we saw with Zechariah. But in my experience, so many conversations that I've had as a pastor, and frankly, as I've looked in the mirror in my own life, I've found one of the biggest obstacles that people sometimes encounter when it comes to connecting with God are those failures and those struggles and those imperfections that leave us wondering why in the world God would even be interested in us in the first place. And as a result, a lot of people walk around carrying this deep sense of shame and even like self-hatred and disgrace in life. And so just to lay my cards on the table of what I want to do here in this next little bit, today I want to talk about what it looks like to experience freedom and healing from the kind of disgrace and shame that has so many people stuck. And tucked here in the opening chapters of the Gospel of Luke, we hear a bit about a person facing some of this disgrace and shame in her own life. Now, as we've seen, this story of the birth of Jesus does not begin with angels and shepherds and later magi. The story actually begins in the Gospel of Luke with a sort of prelude. We meet a couple of older folks, an old priest named Zechariah and his wife Elizabeth, who we've been talking about these last several weeks. In Luke chapter 1, verses 5-7, it says this: "In the time of Herod, king of Judea, there was a priest named Zechariah, who belonged to the priestly division of Abijah. His wife Elizabeth was also a descendant of Aaron," which means she too was from a priestly background. Verse 6, "Both of them were righteous in the sight of God, observing all the Lord's commands and decrees blamelessly." Now, of course, let me be clear. This doesn't mean that they were perfect, but it does mean that they were serious about following Torah, the Old Testament law, the law of Moses. These are sincere followers of God, not fakers. And yet, as righteously as they've tried to live, verse 7, "But, however, yet, nevertheless, they were childless, because Elizabeth was not able to conceive, and they were both very old." Now let me just push pause here for a second and say that I realize that when we start to go to this space, we get into a very tender territory when it comes to infertility. And I know we mentioned this a little bit earlier in this series because this is part of the story, but this text sort of brings things back to center stage. And I have known so many couples, many of them here at North Shore, who have and do struggle in this way. And so I want to be very careful and let you know I want to be as sensitive as I can be, because sometimes people can say the most insensitive things. And yet, in this story, we have to deal with this. Elizabeth herself will actually later refer to her condition as a kind of disgrace among the people. And again, that's not to imply in any way that her infertility is somehow a direct judgment from God for some sort of wrongdoing. It's clearly not the case in this story. But that doesn't stop the Waldorfs and the Statlers, does it? The people who point and who laugh and who mock and who judge. And that doesn't stop the voices even on our own minds at times, am I right? That begin to wonder, wait a second, maybe it's somehow my fault. What have I done to deserve this? And I think all of us know that feeling, whatever the details. Times when things don't go our way in the ways that we hope that they would, and we ask, wait a second, God, what did I do? Is there something wrong with me? Something I've done wrong? Are you angry with me about this imperfection in my life? And pretty soon that sense of disappointment or disgrace, even shame, can start to creep in begin to label us. It's a universal experience for us as human beings. But of course, it wasn't always this way. If you go all the way back to the beginning of God's story in the Garden of Eden, the book of Genesis, we find this powerful example of life before shame and then the tragedy of life after shame. As you probably know, you've got Adam and Eve who are in the garden, and there's this little verse that's tucked there in Genesis chapter 2 that it's very easy to overlook if you're not paying careful attention to it. It's this, Genesis 2:25. Adam and his wife were both naked and they felt no shame. It's incredible. Not just the naked part, although that's strange enough as it is, but the fact that these two people, completely exposed and vulnerable, very literally, no shame. No sense of embarrassment, no sense of self-consciousness, nothing to hide, nothing weighing them down, nothing interfering with that connection between each other and ultimately, of course, with God. They're just free to enjoy the beauty and the bounty and the blessing of God's creation with no shame at all. I don't know if you saw this headline in the news this last week, very important breaking news, but just this week, a man was arrested at a Planet Fitness in New Hampshire. You may know Planet Fitness's slogan as a gym is a judgment-free zone. Well, this guy put that to the test, all right? And he decided to work out naked. Now, for those who are looking at that picture and wait, I see a resemblance there. Let me assure you, it is not me, all right? His beard is much grayer. I've got much more hair on my back. I just want you to know that, all right? Which, that's the image you wanted for Christmas, huh? Ho, 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 there you go. That's my gift to you. But anyway. Let's take that off. You get the point. In the beginning, the garden was truly a judgment-free zone. But if you know the story, it didn't stay that way. The serpent creeps in and tempts them to disobey God. And with that failure, sin enters the world. And since then, sin and its brother shame have been part of the human experience. It's part of why this word sin causes some people to sort of flinch and cringe, right? It's kind of offensive, like it makes us feel bad. And so we try to kind of drown it out. We try to justify or excuse or reframe things. It's just a struggle. But let's just be honest, friends. Let's call it what the Bible calls it. In 1 John chapter 1, it says, if we claim to be without sin, we deceive ourselves and the truth is not in us. It's true of me. And if you're honest, you'll probably acknowledge it's true of you too. At any time we don't live up to God's perfect standards, we fall short. That's what the Bible calls sin. So when Adam and Eve sinned, right on cue, shame entered the picture with it. So much so that, as you probably remember, they then began to hide, to cover up, to disguise this shame and embarrassment that they felt. It was more than that they felt they did wrong. They now had this new sense that maybe somehow they were wrong. They were bad. And human beings have been wrestling with this ever since. Now, I want to make an important distinction here because there is a big difference between guilt and shame, feeling guilty and feeling shame. Guilt generally is sort of action-based, whereas shame is more identity-based. Here's what I mean, huge difference here. Guilt on one hand believes, I did something bad, I did something wrong. But shame internalizes it. Shame believes, I am bad, I am wrong, I am dirty. So we feel guilty for what we did, but we feel shame about who we think it means we are. Do you follow the difference? There's a very popular author and speaker, and she's written and taught a great deal on this theme of shame. Some of you have probably heard of Brené Brown. And she has this powerful quote that I think captures shame in a very vivid way. Shame, she says, is the intensely painful feeling or experience of believing that we are flawed and therefore unworthy of love and belonging. How could God ever love us with all of our flaws? Something we've experienced, she says, that we've done or that we've failed to do that makes us unworthy of connection. There's that word that we're looking at in this series, connection. Something's broken, something's in the way. It's that shame. And I have no idea what that might be for you. Maybe it is something like Elizabeth experienced. Something that hasn't happened as you hoped it would. And yet the truth is, it's not your fault. You didn't do anything. You didn't bring this on yourself. Certainly she didn't deserve it, and neither do you. I've known lots of people who sometimes feel deep shame over stuff totally beyond their control, something that someone in their family did, and they just feel guilty or shamed because of association, or sometimes something that was done to them that wasn't their fault at all, but has left them shamed. But there are other times when the shame does have its roots in things we've done. It might be your secret. It might be your financial debt, but you don't want anyone to know about it. It might be your sexual past. It might be your sexual problems in the present. It might be that addiction that you don't want anybody else to know about, that thing that you did years and years and years ago that you hope nobody ever finds out. It may be the times you dropped the ball as a parent or as a spouse. These things come in all shapes and sizes. But friends, we all have them. I have them. And because of what we've done, we have this spiritual enemy who whispers in our ear. Connects us. That action, that's who you are. That's as good as you'll ever be. So we start to believe it. It's how we see ourselves. Do you know that's what the word Satan means? Hebrew, shaitan. It means in Hebrew, the accuser. You could even argue the heckler. Just like these old guys in the box, pointing out your failures, reminding you of your shortcomings, laughing at your weaknesses, until we start to believe, you know what? Maybe they're right. Maybe I am defective beyond repair. Maybe if people knew the truth about me, they would reject me too. How could God ever accept me? Because I'm damaged, I'm broken, I'm flawed. Because of what I did, I'm dirty and I'm impure. This is the voices we hear. And the enemy continues to whisper for years and years and years because of what you did. Connect with God? Who are you kidding? You think you're gonna fool him like you try to fool everybody else? He knows the truth. Not with your struggle or your secret. No. You've gone too far. You're unlovable. You're unworthy. How could he ever want you? And without knowing it, we take something that we did or even something that happened to us and we start to connect it to our identity, and it changes how we live. The shame-based kind of view of life, it plays out in so many ways. It can drive us, for instance, to this crazy perfectionism, where we try to be good enough to make ourselves feel better, to somehow make up for all those shortcomings deep down inside. I'll tell you, some of the most high-achieving people I know in this world are secretly driven by shame. They have to somehow succeed to overcome these feelings of inadequacy and failure that they have, to shut up some voices that have spoken into their lives. It drives them, and they achieve amazing things, but it's always empty and hollow. I found other people who are basically these guys who are just critics. They point out everybody else's faults, and you know what I've found? The more I've gotten to know some of those folks, usually they're the ones who themselves have the deepest sense of shame. That partly what they're doing is pointing out the very failures in others that they hate so much in themselves. But sometimes, just to make themselves feel a bit better, they somehow try to tear everybody else down. And of course, I've met others who they've just been so wounded and afraid to ever let the truth about them come out that they wear a mask, they shield themselves. They may show up here every week. People might admire and respect them, but inside they're terrified that anyone would find out the truth. And so they keep everyone at arm's length, friendly but not friends, with walls and masks, closed off from other people and ultimately even from God. I've just known so many people who are stuck here. I've been stuck there myself at times. And it sounds a bit like maybe Elizabeth might be a little stuck here. But look at what happened. Back to the Gospel of Luke. After this, after what? If you've been with us, you remember. Elizabeth's husband, Zechariah, has had this incredible encounter with an angel while doing his temple work. And this angel tells Zechariah that his postmenopausal wife is gonna have a baby. As miraculous as that is. And after this exchange, it says, his wife Elizabeth, sure enough, became pregnant and for 5 months remained in seclusion. Now, this is a curious little detail in this story. We don't know exactly why. Never tells us. Some people speculate that, like some who find out that they're pregnant after wanting and waiting for so long, they'll kind of be extra careful. They'll sort of pull back for fear of somehow doing anything that might jeopardize the pregnancy. Perhaps, I guess. Or maybe this is Elizabeth's way of stepping away from all these Waldorfs and Statlers who've been pointing and laughing all these years. Maybe it's her way of resisting that temptation to flaunt this miracle or to rub it in their face to prove them wrong. Whatever the reason, she chooses to withdraw and to get alone with God. And during that time of reflection and private time with God, she gets clearer and clearer on the beautiful gift that she has received, what God has done. In her own words, in these days, the Lord has done this for me, she said. In these days, he has shown his favor and taken away my disgrace from the people. When did everything change? It's when she just got away. She pulled her focus off of what others were saying, off of maybe her own self-talk, and she fixed her eyes on the supernatural gift that God had given her. Now, she could have responded another way. She could have kept her focus on the fact that she was old, because guess what? She was old. That didn't change. That she was beyond birthing age. That life had sort of passed her by and she maybe missed her chance. That's the hard part of this. Some of that's very true. But shame is only kept on us by half-truths. Because it's true, Elizabeth was old, she was barren, she was late in life, but friends, God stepped in. God had a different story he wanted to tell. And friends, when you remember or think back on those moments of failure or struggle, those times you messed up, when you hear those heckling voices that say you're not enough, friends, our response can be the same. It's true, I have sinned. I do struggle. I don't measure up. It's true of me. All true. But they're only part of the story, thank God. Because of what the Lord has done for me and for you. See, here's my point. If you hear nothing else I say, please hear this. As long as you are focused on you, you will always be vulnerable to shame. Because all of us know the truth about ourselves better than anybody else. We know the ways we fall short, even when we pretend we don't. We know the truth about us. I will never be enough on my own, but you will always be vulnerable to shame when you're focused on yourself. But the good news of Christmas is this: God stepped in. And as a result, it is not about your shortcoming. It's about his strength. It's not about your sin. It's about his forgiveness. It's not about your struggle. Even though those things are all very real, it's about your healing. It's not about your disgrace. It's about his amazing grace. The only way to heal and to find freedom from this shame is not to pretend that what you did wasn't bad. Friends, it's bad. We're worse than we think we are, let's be honest. But it's to move that focus from what I'm not to who Jesus is. It's to take the focus off me and to put it on Jesus. Because some of you, even though you have been forgiven by Jesus, even though he does not hold your sin against you, he does not remember your sin, you won't let it go. You're still living with it. You're consumed by it, sometimes defined by it. This shame-based thinking, still believing that you're something that God says you are not. It's why I was so delighted to be reintroduced to this beautiful little verse in the New Testament book of Hebrews as I was studying for this message. The author of Hebrews in chapter 12, second half of verse 2, shows us this beautiful gift that God gives us, not just at Christmas, but all of our lives. It's a verse I've read, I've memorized, but for this talk, God brought new life to it in my mind. 3 little words in the heart of this sentence speaks of Jesus on the cross, preparing to give his life. In Hebrews 12, second part of verse 2 says this, for the joy set before him, Jesus endured the cross. Jesus went through the humiliation, the suffering, the mocking and heckling of the crowd, completely unjustified. He endured it for the joy set before him. The joy. He saw it as worth it. And then there's these 3 little words that I love. Scorning its shame, it says. Scorning its shame. Hating it, despising it, loathing that shame. Then it says, and sat down victorious at the right hand of the throne of God. So powerfully, Jesus endured the cross. He hated, he despised, he scorned the shame. Every fiber of him loathed it. That shame that robs people from intimacy with God and joy of heaven. From the beginning of time, God scorned the shame that entered the Garden of Eden on that day. He hated the shame of David's adultery and Peter's denial and Judas's betrayal. And the very same way, God scorns the shame that crushes your soul and kills your joy and keeps you stuck. He despises the shame that you feel from your lies. He never meant it for you. The shame you feel from your hidden eating habits or your failures as a parent. He loathes that shame that you feel because of your deepest secret or your darkest hurt. He scorns the shame of how you feel when you look at the wrong thing or you think the wrong thought or those words fly out of your mouth even though you don't want them to all over again. He hates the shame that you endure because of what you said or what you did or maybe what you didn't do but should have. And the Son of God, the God in the flesh, he stripped naked and hung on an instrument of torture called a cross, while those he came to save heckled him, laughed at him, cursed him, spit on him. And Jesus looked at that shame and he says, I hate you. I despise you. You are nothing to me. My Father sent me to seek and to save the lost, to give my life as a ransom for many. It's a high price I'll pay, but it's the gift I want to give. And that's why shame, you have no power compared to the joy before me, Jesus said. You are nothing, Jesus said, this shame that seems all powerful. Shame, you do not distract me. You do not discourage me. You cannot defeat me. And you are almost finished. As Jesus looked up to the heaven and he said, Father, into your hands I commit my spirit. And that Lamb of God gave his life for the forgiveness of our sins. And when he breathed his last, the earth shook and went dark. Day 1, people waited. Day people, they began to lose hope. Day 3, they said, I guess he wasn't who he said he was after all. But one day, that 3rd day, when a couple of women went out to check on that grave, they discovered that stone had been rolled away. That tomb was empty, that Jesus was not there. And because of his death and his resurrection, we can be made new. We can be forgiven. We are no longer defined by that stuff. He hates it. Friends, hate it with him. Don't scorn yourself. Scorn the shame. Hate the shame. Join him in the joyful glee of saying, shame, you no longer have any power in my life because of Jesus. I am free. We can be forgiven, healed of shame. But the only way is to move the focus from who you are to who Christ is. From what you've done, and we've all done enough, to what he's done. Friends, he's done more than enough. So not only does he scorn the shame, he says, come scorn it with me, baby. Let's hate those stories. We're not gonna hold on to it anymore. We're not gonna relive it or rehash it. We're not gonna linger in it. We'll learn from it. Please learn from it. But don't linger in it. Your past is not your future. He says, I wanna make you new. The Lord has done this for me, friends. He has shown me his favor and done what? Taken away my shame. It's one of the reasons, one of the beautiful practices that I've tried to incorporate in my life at the end of the day is this little experience called a prayer of examine. Just a brief moment to reflect on the day, often guided by this little devotional that I use called Lectio 365. This little guided thing that invites me to reflect on the ways I saw God moving that day, and then invites me to reflect on the ways I moved away from God this day. And then just to own it and acknowledge it and confess it and be forgiven of it so that I can fall asleep on my pillow completely cleansed before him. Free from any shame, forgiven. And of course, we have this beautiful reminder of this that we get to do from time to time around here that is called the Lord's Supper or communion. You see, God has a gift for you, friends. He's wrapped it beautifully and he has set it out for you. And he paid a high price to buy it for you. But just like all those Christmas gifts that are gonna be under trees in the next few days, it is not meant ultimately to just sit there and look nice. A gift only becomes a gift when you pick it up and you tear that paper off like a 3-year-old and you hold that gift to your chest. You claim it for yourself. And friends, I wanna invite you to pick up that gift today. To put down that shame and instead pick up that gift. In fact, grab those little symbols that are under the chairs in front of you. We're literally gonna unwrap this gift together. And as we get ready to do that, here's what I wanna invite you to do, just to get very practical, and then I've gotta stop before the band sings one last song. To move the focus from what you did to who Jesus is and hear what he did. And here's how this will play out. And you may want to reflect on this. Maybe put this in the chat or think about this more later. Fill in the blanks in this sentence. I am not whatever Waldorf says I am. Because of Christ, I am what? So, I'm not horrible. Because of Christ, I'm forgiven. I'm not sick. Because of Christ, I'm healed. I'm not broken beyond repair. Because of Christ, I can be put back together. I am whole. I'm not unwanted, no matter what the voices might say. Because of Christ, I am loved. I am accepted. I am welcomed. I am wanted. I am chosen. I am new. I am set apart. I am called by God because of Christ. That's what he's done, friends. No more shame. Because of this baby who was born, who taught and healed and went to a cross, scorning its shame, and then was raised from the dead. No more shame. Someone might have said to you, shame on you, shame on you. The devil, the accuser, the heckler, shame on you. God says, shame off you. Not that what you did was okay, it wasn't, but I've come to fix it, to heal it. No more shame. I roll away that shame just like I roll away that giant stone. And because of who Jesus is and because of what he's done, you are worthy of his love. Jesus' birth was for you. Jesus' death was for you. The cross was for you. The empty tomb was for you. Jesus looked and saw through time and he said, all this awful stuff, it's worth enduring for you. So you could be free. That's what gave him joy, was your freedom, your salvation, your forgiveness, your wholeness. And he endured the shame of the cross, scorning it, so he could tell you, you are not what you did. You are not who others say you are. You're not even who you think you are. You are who Jesus, the Son of God, says you are. And I stand before you today to tell you, if you are in him, you are free. You are forgiven. You are changed. You are healed. You are redeemed. Is this good news to anybody else in this room? You are complete. You are chosen. You are accepted. So no more shame. Scorn it with him. No more shame. Shame off you. And with that in mind, let's take these symbols. Time to unwrap the gift. Pop off that top cap and find that little piece of bread. Jesus said, this is my body broken for you. Do it in remembrance of me. So let's eat that bread together. Take the gift in, friend. Don't just admire it. And then unwrap it again, because there's juice in there. It's not very good juice, but it still works. Peel it open, drink it down. He says, this is my blood, which will be spilled for you. Do this in remembrance of me. Feel it go down your throat. Take that gift in, friends. No more shame. Be free. Would you stand with us? Let's sing and celebrate this beautiful promise of his blood.